Probably start boiling, cooking off. It's crazy how hot that is. There we go, hot mate. 94.3 The Ox. It's a state line full and dance hall devil on The Ox on your Monday ride. 8:28 now. Time for Coffee Talk, brought to you by the Comanche Chamber of Commerce and Agriculture. Check them out at #Explore Comanche, Texas. As we say good morning and welcome into the studio, as always on Monday, Cynthia Newton with Hope Counseling. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. It's almost the end of March.
That's crazy, isn't it? I mean, it's been a wild and woolly month for us.
We're a third of the way through 2022.
Oh yeah.
Isn't that's even harder than you think?
Remember back in 20?
Or third? No, is that right? I don't know my math skills. We're a fourth of the way.
Remember 2 years ago, a war ago, a pandemic ago, when we were thinking it just can't get any worse than this, right? Every year, it's like, yep, there it is again.
Yes.
Speaking of which, what are we talking about?
We are going to talk about teenagers.
Oh, good Lord. I didn't think it could get any worse.
With that. Teenagers. What in the heck do you do with a teenager? Anyway.
We're going to get into corporal punishment today?
No, not necessarily.
Oh,
we're just going to try to look at their brain and figure out why
they
are the way they are.
There
and what to do as parents, because teenagers are definitely, once you get to those teenage years, it's just a whole new world.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you relate to them, and how do you continue to have a relationship with them? So anyway, we're going to talk about that. So I want to say that teenage years can be some of the most difficult when raising children.
Yeah. Goes without saying. Captain Obvious.
Or if you work with children in your profession, that can also be difficult. What does it even mean when it comes to understanding teenagers? Is this even possible? When parenting or working with teenagers, we have to work on understanding why they do the things they do, as well as understanding how they process what is happening in their world. When we see through their perspective, this will help us to connect with them and to understand their behaviors. So where do we start?
I don't know.
First off, we got to understand that a teen's brain is under construction. Like, think of a big construction sign there. Okay, anytime you try to talk to your teenagers, realize their brain is under construction. Their brains are growing fast, but different parts of their brain are growing at different rates. So in a teen's brain, the connections between the emotional part of the brain, which is known as the amygdala.
Okay.
Got that word? Amygdala.
Is there going to be a test?
Yes.
Let me write that down.
And the decision-making center, which is the frontal cortex, are still developing, and not always at the same rate. This is important to remember. That's why teens have overwhelming emotional input, and when you ask them to explain what they were thinking, they can't explain. They weren't thinking as much as they were feeling. So they respond to their emotions, okay? They're going to respond by an emotional impulse, okay? Right. And that's really, it really truly has to do with what's going on in their brain. The emotional part of the brain develops fully at birth, but the decision-making, reasoning part of the brain develops over time into adulthood. Because the prefrontal cortex is still developing, teenagers might rely on the amygdala, remember that's the emotional side, to make decisions and solve problems first. The amygdala is associated with emotions, impulses, aggression, and instinctive behavior. Sounds like a teenager, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all wound up in one ball.
Absolutely. So have you ever asked a teenager why they did something and they say, I don't know? Well, they actually don't know why. They can't put it into words fully why they did it, because the part of their brain that they were using to make that decision was the emotional part. They really don't know why they did it. So there's other ways to communicate to help them. So you got to look a little bit deeper and see what all an adolescent is going through in their development at this time and what they're trying to accomplish. As the brain is developing, other parts of the teenager, so are other parts, which are known as adolescent development. There are some major tasks that occur within the teenage years. These tasks are very important because it helps them to become successful and healthy adults. Identity. This is where they are learning who they are as an individual. It is also the way they think about themselves and the characteristics that define them. They are searching and developing who they are and how they view themselves, but also how others view them. Those junior high years are the worst. Okay, I mean, you've got all sorts of identity crises going on with kids and just trying to figure out who I am and what do they think of me, and so and so Susie Q doesn't like me, and yeah, oh wow, yeah, it's bad. I mean, and bless y'all teachers that work with junior high. I mean, that's just drama central. So as they learn their identity, they're also trying to find independence. Achieving independence is an essential part of the journey to adulthood. Teenagers need love, support, and respect to become independent, but it's also necessary to set clear rules, giving responsibility and opportunity for them to build their decision-making skills. So you can't just go, wait, okay, yay, yeah, you can go do whatever you want because you're a teenager. No, you've got to set rules, set boundaries that they understand and they learn. And this can be rough because they are transitioning from childhood to adulthood, especially when you get to those 16, 17-year-olds and they think they're adults.
They're geniuses.
They think they know it all, but
That's
guess
right.
what? They're not quite there yet. Anyway.
You just don't understand.
That's right. Values. This is a person's principle or standards of behaviors, one's judgment of what is important in life. What does this include? Honesty, integrity, kindness, being fair, tolerance, compassion, empathy, dignity, trust, respect. The list can go on and on. Our values are evident in what we say, what we do, and what we choose not to say or do. Okay, so this is where, I mean, they're really starting to practice, what you preach, so to speak. They're starting to put into practice some of these values that they've been learning, and really go, okay, these are what I want my values to be. And so it's really important to encourage them in that as well. Self-confidence and self-esteem, positive self-esteem for teens is important as it allows them to try new things, take healthy risks, and solve problems. A young person with a healthy self-esteem is more likely to display positive behavioral characteristics such as acting independent and mature, taking pride in their accomplishments. They begin to trust who they are and their decisions. It's important for us to focus on their efforts and accomplishments, not necessarily perfection. That's huge. Parents, we all want our kids to be perfect. We all want them to make that A honor roll. We all want, them to be that star athlete. But you've got to focus. Not every child is the same, okay? And you've got to focus on, hey, they did really great this semester. Hey, they did really good in this, or, maybe they did extra great at that track meet or that game, and, just maybe they threw a basket for the first time, or just different things that, they may not be absolutely perfect or all-star, but you've got to focus on the accomplishments that they are making to help build that self-confidence.
The effort's just as important as the outcome.
Absolutely.
In many instances.
So an acceptance of feelings. Teenagers can be confused by their negative feelings and about their positive feelings. They will feel something, but they aren't exactly sure what it is. This is where naming their feelings will help them begin to understand what upsets them, bothers them, or makes them happy. They shouldn't hide their feelings, but take the steps to clarify their feelings. This is really huge, especially when you look at boys and girls, okay? Because boys are typically taught there's only really two emotions. You can be happy and you can be angry. Okay? And
well, there's more?
There is more.
Oh, okay.
And this is, you really see this as they grow up and become adults and really not knowing how to deal with all the emotions that they're feeling. So it's very important to help them understand feelings. I know that sounds so cliche, but there's more than just happy, sad, and angry. Okay, there's a lot more feelings there, and really getting some of those feelings books out, or really even talking at a young age, so that as they get into junior high and high school, they're starting to really understand and utilize those feelings appropriately. Learning to communicate. This is the worst. Dear, thank you, telephones, smartphones, social media.
Yeah.
During the teenage years, they are learning their communication skills. What we desire here is for healthy communication skills to be developed through having healthy communication with their parent. Communication is not just about talking, but also about body language and listening. Yet we look at, we can hide behind text messages because we don't have to use anything, nobody's going to pick up on all of that stuff. Number one thing is to keep the lines of communication open. So you as a parent or a caregiver, listen more than you speak. They need to process things. Make time to spend together. This is where things will come up in conversation naturally, okay? Just taking a little bit of extra time to just do something together. Giving them privacy. Respect that they are growing into adults. when you're doing something, though, don't just sit down in front of a movie or something. I mean, actually do something, create something, play ball. I mean, whatever it is, whatever your child enjoys.
And that's when you'll really find out, like you said, if you sit down at dinner and go, well, how was your day?
Mm-hmm.
You're just going to get, but if you're actually out there doing something,
Mm-hmm.
then, hey, today something comes up,
Mm-hmm.
that's pertinent.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to kind of watch that evolve. So, and as they feel more confident in telling you these things, they're going to be more open. Give them privacy, though. Respect that they are growing into adults. As they earn privacy, give them privacy. Okay? I mean, it doesn't mean, hey, you know what? You can have the keys to the kingdom. I'm giving you a phone, so guess what? You've got, everything. You've got access to the World Wide Web and everything that's out there. No, you still have responsibility for your kids.
Right.
Okay, and so realize that too, and set up parental blocks. Do things that can help protect them. Keep up with their interests. Continue to take an active interest in their life. It may be something totally obscure to you that you've never heard of, but maybe they can teach you. So take that time to learn and understand, and that's one of the things that I've had to do, because I'm just really old now, especially since I just had a birthday. And I'm like, what in the world is this? And it's but they get such a joy out of explaining and pulling you into their world.
Sure.
That it helps, and it helps y'all keep those lines of communication open. Be loving. Teenagers often struggle with figuring out who they are as an individual and need to feel loved. So you need to tell them often and demonstrate your love using whatever physical contact that you're comfortable with. Okay, so yeah, y'all know I have boys.
Be kissing on them in public.
Yeah. And my oldest still living at home is definitely at that stage where you don't do this in public, but it's really kind of cool when he makes sure that we're alone, and he always comes up and just gives me a hug, and it's like, if any of y'all know my oldest, Caleb, don't tell him I said this, because he would probably be embarrassed. But yeah, I mean, those are the special things.
Sure.
You kind of have to make opportunities for those to happen, because they're not always going to happen as they get older. Have fun. Good feelings help to build trust. So make sure you're having fun. Connection is the key with teenagers. One major concept I want to hit on is the questions that we ask. So this is huge in communicating and connecting with your teenager. So how and what questions will lead the teenager to talk further with you? Asking why questions will likely lead them to say, I don't know, and shut down. Or feeling like maybe they are doing something wrong. Asking why would you do that feels negative. Asking why questions will keep the disconnect, but asking so how and what questions will help build connections. Blah, 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 blah. Also, be creative with your questions. So something like, in this situation you have described, what worked well? So when what you're talking about, what worked well for you? What would you want to do again in this situation that you did today? Or how would you want to do it differently if it's something that they feel like they didn't do well in? Asking open-ended questions will help lead them to communicate and to have a better conversation instead of you telling them the answer. This allows them to develop their independence. Remember, many times there is an emotion or a feeling that a teenager is feeling that they can't explain. We would like for them to tell us exactly what's going on. Wouldn't that be so much easier? But we have to remember that part of the brain for them to tell us what they feel is not yet developed. So again, they're just not able to fully describe that. One way I like to describe talking to teenagers is kind of like, if you think of it as a treasure hunt. You're a detective. So this is our job. We must hear what they are saying and then interpret what they are trying to really tell us. Right. Sure. So, that these are huge things to look at. There's nothing easy. There's no right or wrong answer as far as teenagers, but the connection is the best, and trying to understand and look at, hey, you know what? Their brain is not fully developed. They are not adults. This is why they don't have the right to do so many things because they're not fully developed.
But little Johnny gets to.
Yeah, well, little Johnny is not my kid, so.
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Exactly.
I've heard all of this.
Absolutely, and you have to know, and you have to set boundaries, and remember, your job is not to be your child's best friend. Okay, if you're parenting as a friend, you're not parenting. Okay, so you have to set that boundary. Absolutely, you want to have a relationship, and that friendship may develop later in life. But when they're a child, your relationship is not to be a friend; it's to be a parent. It's to guide them.
Sure.
So, anyways, as always, guys, we're here at Hope Counseling of Texas with 4 locations in Comanche, Hamilton, Dublin, and Eastland. Please give us a call if there's anything we can do to help you. 325-356-1105. And like I said, anything that we can do, we're here. Again, 4 locations: Comanche, Eastland, Hamilton, and Dublin. 325-356-1105, or find us on Facebook at Hope Counseling of Texas.
All right.
So,
Cynthia
all right.
Newton, as always, thanks for wading into deep waters with us this morning.
Absolutely. Hang in there, guys. You will survive. So we'll see you next week.
All right.
And these tire service, yeah.